Okay, if you rent or own a rental property in England, you need to listen up. A massive change is on the horizon that's going to affect 11 million renters and over 2 million landlords. We're talking about the new Renters' Rights Act. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what it means for you.
Let's just jump right in with a pretty scary question. Think about it. Could your landlord serve you notice tomorrow, telling you to pack up and leave without giving you any reason at all?
For a long, long time, the answer to that question for millions of people was a terrifying yes. You could be the model tenant, right? Always on time with rent, keeping the place spotless, and you could still be asked to leave at the end of your contract, just like that. But all of that is about to change.
And the thing that's changing it all is this landmark piece of legislation, the Renters' Rights Act. And look, this isn't just some small update to the rules. This is a fundamental rewrite of the entire relationship between tenants and landlords in England. It's a big deal. The date you need to burn into your memory is May 1st, 2026. That's the day the switch flips. The old world of fixed-term contracts and these so-called no-fault evictions, it's over, and a whole new era begins. So what exactly is getting tossed out?
Well, this is the big one, the Section 21 notice. For decades, this has been the legal tool that lets a landlord end a tenancy without having to give any reason whatsoever. It's been, without a doubt, the single biggest cause of stress and instability for private renters.
And as of May 1st, 2026, it is gone, finished, abolished, for every single private tenancy in England. Doesn't matter if it's a brand new lease or one you've had for years. This is honestly the biggest shift in renters' rights in a generation.
So with Section 21 out of the picture, what's taking its place? Well, let's look at your new rights because they create a whole new reality for renters, one that's built on more security, more fairness, and a whole lot more flexibility.
This is a genuine shift in the balance of power. Fixed-term contracts, they're gone. Every tenancy will now be a rolling contract. That means you're not locked in for a year anymore. If your life changes, you can just give 2 months' notice and move on. You're also getting much stronger protection if you complain about bad conditions and new rules to stop discrimination.
Okay, let's talk about rent increases, because this is huge. The whole process is becoming way more formal and predictable. Your landlord can only try to raise the rent once a year. They have to use a specific legal form to do it, and they have to give you 2 months' warning, not just one. And the most important part, if you think that increase is just not fair, you now have a much safer way to fight it.
And here's why it's so much safer. It used to be incredibly risky to challenge a rent increase. Why? Because you could go to a tribunal and they could actually decide your rent should be even higher than what your landlord was asking for. Can you believe that? Well, that risk is now gone. The tribunal can't set a rent higher than what the landlord proposed, and of course the landlord can't just turn around and evict you for complaining, because Section 21 doesn't exist anymore. This completely changes the game.
Here's another major lifestyle change: pets. Landlords can't just have a blanket no pets allowed policy anymore. You now have the right to put in a formal written request to have a pet, and your landlord has to give you a legitimate, solid reason to say no. They can't just refuse out of principle. For animal lovers, this is a total game changer.
Okay, so we've covered all the new powers for renters. But what about landlords? This act creates a whole new rulebook for them too. So let's flip the script and break down their new responsibilities.
So the biggest change for landlords is that they now must have a valid reason to get their property back. They have to use something called a Section 8 notice, which requires a proven legal ground for eviction, and the rules for using it are tighter. For example, if they want to sell the property, they now have to give you 4 months' notice, and they can't do it at all in the first year you're living there.
The act also cleans up the start of a tenancy. Landlords are now banned from encouraging those stressful bidding wars. They have to advertise one price, and that's the price. They also can't ask for a huge chunk of rent up front. On top of that, 2 new mandatory systems are coming: a public database of all landlords and a new ombudsman to help sort out disputes fairly.
And to make sure everyone actually follows these new rules, well, the penalties are getting a serious upgrade. The new maximum civil penalty for landlords who repeatedly break the rules is now a whopping £40,000. That gives local councils some seriously sharp teeth to enforce the law.
Now, it's super important we're clear about what this act doesn't do. It's a massive reform, for sure, but it's not a silver bullet that's going to fix every single problem in the rental market. So let's get into the fine print.
Let me say this very clearly. This is not rent control. There is no hard cap on how much your rent can go up. It can still rise to whatever the local market rate is. The Act only changes the process for increasing it. It also doesn't apply if you're a lodger living with your landlord, and remember, these changes are for England only.
And there's a big exception for students living in shared houses, or HMOs. Basically, to keep the student housing market in sync with the university year, landlords will still be able to end those tenancies when the academic year is over, using a new, very specific legal reason. And purpose-built student halls are also totally exempt from these changes. Now, while that big change, the end of Section 21, happens on May 1st, 2026, other parts of the Act are actually going to be phased in over time. It's not all happening at once. So let's take a quick look at the timeline. So that new landlord database should start rolling out in late 2026. Then in 2028, it becomes mandatory for all landlords to be part of that new ombudsman scheme. And if we look way down the road, there's a deadline of 2035 for every single rented property to meet a new, much higher decent home standard, which is designed to tackle problems like damp and mold for good.
Okay, that was a lot of information, I know. So, what does this all mean for you today? Let's wrap this up with some clear, practical action points for both renters and for landlords.
If you're a renter, your job is to know your new rights. After that key date, May 1st, 2026, make sure nobody is trying to get you to sign an old, outdated fixed-term contract. Understand that you now have the flexibility to leave with just 2 months' notice, and get familiar with that new, safer process for challenging any unfair rent hikes. And if you're a landlord, your focus has to be on compliance. It's time to ditch those old fixed-term agreements and update all of your legal paperwork and procedures. Start getting ready for that database registration and honestly, get ahead of the curve by checking your property against that new decent home standard now.
And that all leads us to the big final question. This act is a monumental shift toward giving tenants more security. But will it strike the right balance? Will it create a fairer, more stable market for everyone involved? Or will all these new rules and responsibilities push some landlords to just sell up and leave the sector, which could shrink the number of homes available to rent? The answer to that is going to shape the future of renting in England for years to come.